the Keys and Innovations Club, the show where we talk everything about business. I'm Keilani Hall, and today we are talking about how to manage access. Now, this is when doors start to open up to you, and now you have access, I would say, to people and forums that you previously weren't privy to. This is a new caliber of people. So, throughout today's episode, I'll be dropping keys throughout the entire way, so make sure you listen all the way through. So for the past few episodes, I've really talked about networking and, meeting people, but at a certain point, doors will begin to open up in your life to areas and people that you previously weren't privy to. And so some, when they reach those moments or when doors begin to open up, may call this arriving, but to me, for any open door, that's really an open door to the next level. And so typically you are invited to a room because one, you've had some great accomplishment or something caused you to stand out, something transpired where people now take note of you. But when you are invited to into a room, you need to manage those moments well because it can really influence what happens next for you. And so I just want to say now, if you're ever invited into a room to like a new level or new caliber of people, congratulations, a new horizon has opened up, to you. And I would say, like, for myself, I've been afforded the opportunity to like be invited into rooms, at work as well as other areas of my life, by supervisors, by colleagues, by friends, by mentors. But when it comes to those moments, I really don't take them lightly. I'm very mindful of how I navigate those spaces because one of the things that my mentor says is, your gift will make room for you. And so for you, that can be like some great accomplishment or something that you did that like really stood out. But it's really like your character that will keep you there. And so there are a few things to take into consideration when you're now privy, I would say, to events, places, and people at events that are exclusive. Whether that's happening for you now or that's something that will soon happen in the future. And so the first thing to be mindful of is one, let the person who invited you announce you. Now, I say this, and this doesn't mean, don't go speak, and connect with people. But when I say this, I mean, don't go around parading who you are and what you do. If you are invited to a room and it's like a new status of people, act like you've almost been there before and you are meeting the people that you are meeting now. Now, that doesn't take away any of the feelings, more so it's in how you conduct yourself. And I say this because I've seen people or even hear the stories of how people were invited into rooms, they were invited into spaces, but they didn't know how to manage those moments well. Whether that was um, them trying to flex for social media, being thirsty and trying to meet everyone in the venue, trying to hand out their business card to every person that walks past them, or talking to people without really having an understanding of what things to say or what things to shy away from. And so because of that, they weren't invited back to rooms. And who knows when they will be invited back or if that is something that will happen even in the future. And so when it all comes back to really, I would say, follow the lead of the person that invites you because they really set the tone of, I would say, how to conduct yourself and how to navigate that space. And so one of the key things to say even now is you being there speaks volumes in itself. It shows that to some degree that you're reputable and whoever invited you is okay with their name being associated with you. And so that right there even speaks volumes because the people in that room already know the person who invited you. They know their work ethic. They know how they handle business. They know what they're about. They know their character. And even to some degree, they may even know who they are as a person. And so when people see that and they know the person that you're with, even points to the fact of what may entail, engaging with you. And so that to some degree, that will speak to like your character, your work ethic, just you being associated with them. And so don't go around, flashing, your business card, trying to take pictures, and letting the whole world see, that you made it to, I would say, this big event, and or I would say brushing shoulders with the people that you're coming across. And now, just a little side note right here, it's okay to like have your business card in those cases. Really look back to the person who invited you and allow that to dictate whether that's, something you should be giving out then and there, or whether that's something you should like really hold back in that moment. And I say this is because one, they know the people within that space, and just like the people know them there, they also know the people that are there as well, whether that be like their work ethic, their character, how they handle business, and they also know where you are in your journey, whether you can take on a potential business deal with someone, as well as demands that can entail like the entire deal, as well as that process. And so when it comes to that, and like even like you ascending, meeting these people, you can have things established where you are, but the demands and standards are different as you go up. And I would say the ladder go up in life, begin to meet, I would say, a new set of people. And so you may not necessarily be to that point now, but you are on your way, or they have a better insight of how you really fit into that phase and whether that's something you should pursue or not in that moment. Now, when it comes to being in a room, there are a few reasons that you're there. And this is like really going to set the stage and help you determine one, which level you're at. And so, one, you're either there to learn and get acclimated to being in these kinds of spaces, learning, I would say, the difference in the level that you're currently transitioning from, um, and for others in the space to know you. And there are different levels of knowing, and I'm going to really touch on them a little bit later. And so I say really follow the lead of the person you're with. Listen and watch. You can't learn if you're talking. And when you begin to listen and you begin to watch, that allows you to, one, learn the language, learn the mindset of the room, and also how to approach people by the way that the person who invited you is approaching them, how they're engaging with them. And so, one of the things, or some of the things they should take note of, is one, how do they engage with people? How do people engage with them? What questions do they ask? How do they navigate conversation? What topics do they discuss? Really watch and take note. And I would say a big thing is if they are not speaking, then you should be listening. And I say this because one, their friends and colleagues aren't your friends. They have a established rapport with the people that are there. Let them open up the conversation or the floor to you. You have to distinguish, whether you are there as a student, I would say more so to watch and listen, or whether you're there to be presented, I would say the level of a colleague or on the same level as them, or whether this is the time in which they're inviting you to an event so that uh, they're really allowing you to have the floor and they want you to go out there and shine and let others see the you that they know and the greatness that's on the inside of you. But again, that all goes back on how they present you and how they really, I would say, set the tone for the night. And I would say you should know well enough, the body language of the person that you're with to on that gesture that says, okay, seize this moment or go and shine because, really the night is yours. I'm stepping back and watching you do you. And I would say I've learned this in various areas of my life. And I would say a prime example for you to know whether you are where you are is, I would say, look at the relationships and also how people engage and interact with you. So, for example, like when a conflict arises or someone needs help doing business, who do they call on? Do they call on you to speak on their behalf or to handle a situation or to even be that person that goes with them, alongside them? Do they trust you to with responsibility? or to even be that spokesperson for them, whether they're in the room or not. And so this speaks to a few areas. One, I would say your mindset as well as your maturity, your knowledge, and versatility. And so once you've earned that level of trust, or you're in the process of being shaped in those areas, that supervisor, or that boss, that colleague, that friend, or even like the person that's watching you, it may not be that person that's in your immediate sphere, but someone that maybe has access to you to watch you from afar, and they'll create the opportunity for you to have access to people and events that you weren't privy for. And so they will create those opportunities for you, that others really aren't privy to, because they know that you have value to add, and they'll begin to like give you access to things that others aren't privy to. And so that really comes to, I would say, to a level of maturity within yourself, as well as the skills that you have honed into. And so you're no longer seen, I would say, as, I would say, a typical subordinate or someone that's still within, I would say, the earlier stages of the process, but that you have reached a certain level of maturity when they know you know how to navigate situations. Now, I'm saying all this to say is, even when it comes to being invited to the room, not everyone's on the same level when they're introduced. So some people may be invited as, I would say, a partner, or even on the same level, but as one person that invited you understands that you know how to present yourself, as well as maintain, I would say great level of character. You know how to handle business. But even if you are presented, I would say, as a partner or even as a colleague, still hold that level or that countenance, um, with one appreciation, but as well as great character, even when navigating these spaces. And so when it comes to being presented as a partner or even a colleague, uh, you may not be in what I would call like that watch and listen phase, which is more so the phase, I would say, more so the student or someone that's emerging within the space. And it's because you know how to conduct yourself. You know the ropes. You know how to navigate different areas, different spheres. Now, there are maybe a few things that you have to learn, but you don't have to learn as much as someone that's more so early on. And I say this is because, even when it comes to a person, whether it's you being like a student or more so on the same level as a colleague, and how you conduct yourself and how you navigate those spaces, is because really the person who invited you, as much as you watch and listen to them and like what they're doing and how they navigate spaces, they're doing the same thing with you. And so they're looking at, one, how did you conduct yourself? How did you handle the conversation? How do you navigate those spaces, even when faced with tough topics or even questions? How do you engage with people? Because at the end of the day, like what you do, how you act, and how you engage people is associated with the person that invited you. And so your decisions and your actions impact them as well, not just you, and what can also impact them in a positive way, but even sometimes in like a negative way. But we're navigating that, and that's not really going to happen because you're listening, you're taking note, even on like some of the things that are being talked about today. But really, how you manage the room and the invitation really dictates on whether you'll be invited back. And so when it comes to this, I would say manage rooms, manage doors well, because they influence the next opportunities for you, as well as the events and the access that you have in the future. And so you will have experiences that you never dreamed of, but it's all in how you manage moments, um, not only in what you do, but also your character. But something I want you to remind you of, and we talked about this even in like a previous episode, is to remember your why as well as your vision, because a lot of amazing things will be presented to you, but you always have to come back to this. And the reason I say this is because you have to think about, how does an opportunity, a person, an event, that's being presented to you tie into that. And so you may have had that initial door open to you, but of those other doors, of those other events, and the things that I would say come across you, how do they really tie into that vision? Because as you journey, some doors you will have to say no to, and respectfully decline, even though the opportunity is nice. And you have to really look at whether um, it will take you on a detour of what you're doing, as well as what's ahead of you. Align with that entire vision that you had. Is the opportunity? Is that event fruitful? Is it a detour? What's the strategic alignment with what you are doing in the path that's really set for you and what you're called to do? Now, I say this, really go out there and live your best life, and take the world, but really come back and remember what are your priorities. And I just want to just put one more last note right here. There are some people who end up, who in the end will be able to give you more, and do more and want nothing from you. Now, there are some people that just want to see you win. Now, when it comes to that, is you just have to use wisdom and determine who those people are, as well as identify those moments when they present themselves. And so that's all that I have for today. And I just want to say, make sure you subscribe to the Keys and Innovations Club if you haven't already. But before you go, make sure you show some love to your favorite podcast by leaving a review. And I just want to say thank you for listening to the Keys and Innovations Club. Also, stay tuned for the next episode where I'll be discussing on how to maximize your role and what it is to be and become an asset. Thank you.